Hello fellow cinephiles, Film Guru here. So for those new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as Film Guru, and I do a variety of reviews on TV shows, movies, and a variety of other film content. So thanks for joining me today. And like I said in the previous video, I'm really starting to focus on unique and different films, and also films that are sort of controversial and sort of banned throughout the world. So today I'll be looking at French film Baise Moi. This film came out in 2000. The film focuses on Manu, played by Rafaela Anderson, and Nadine, played by Karen Burch. Two women who've had enough, who've been abused and been through a variety of really violent altercations with people and treated really poorly. Angry at the world, they embark on a twisted, rage-filled road trip. They choose to have sex when they please and kill when they need, leaving a trail of mischief and dead bodies in their wake. Generating a media blitz and manhunt, soon everyone is out to capture the young fugitives. This is a film that's been banned for a number of years, not only in Australia and Canada and a variety of other countries, but also France itself, which is where the film's based and sort of where it needed to take off. It's been banned there as well. It is a very controversial film in many ways. This depiction of violence is very realistic and pretty full on. There's actual sexual content in it because the two lead actresses are from the adult film industry, and so they use them to do the sex scenes realistically. And it is a film that's talking about a lot of different things and is quite eye-opening in a lot of ways. This was a film I hadn't really heard a lot about, but then when I started to research it, I started to see what the film was really about and what it was trying to say. I can understand why it's a bit more controversial than most. In today's standards, I think there's been a lot more stuff that's a bit more full-on than this film. But at the time, it would have been quite a shocking and eye-opening film. In the 2000s, they started to make independent films with shooting on video. And that's what this film feels like. It feels like what Lars von Trier was doing at the time, the way he was filming movies. And it kind of adds to it. It kind of adds uniqueness to it. It's a very independent film, very small film. And it tells a simple story, but shocking and powerful in its execution of that story. The best way to describe this film is it feels like a cross between Thelma and Louise and Natural Born Killers. And that's the best way to describe it, I think. So the reason I feel it's like those two films, it feels like Thelma and Louise and what happens in that film to one of them and the journey they go on. And it feels very similar to that. But in regards to the violence and the relationship between these two, it feels much more like Natural Born Killers. But it's much more graphic than that film actually is. I think the best thing about this film is the two lead actresses. I think they're really great. They broke free of the adult film industry and sort of branched out to do something different. It felt like they could express themselves, and this might be a springboard for them to do something else. And for one of them it was. Rafaela Anderson, she was able to go on to much more mainstream films and had a bit of a career after this movie. But being banned and the way it was received, it just wasn't the springboard that the two actresses expected it to be. And in what I've read, they've talked about how audiences, especially male audience, struggle to see the separation between what they did in the adult film industry and who they are in this particular film. They couldn't separate them. And they talked about how audiences struggled to try and accept that these actresses are playing these particular roles, which I think was quite sad. I think Karen Burch is absolutely fantastic here. She has a real presence on screen. She has a unique look. She's really captivating and interesting to watch. When she sort of is in the violent scenes or holding a gun, she looks kick-ass and awesome, and I really loved her portrayal of this particular character in this film. I was really impressed by her, and I was just drawn in by that particular character. And I wanted to follow her on the journey of what ultimately unfolds in this particular film. It has a really great ending, I think, in a lot of ways. It just sort of captures what the film is sort of looking at, and it's just so different and out there. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, and it's definitely not a film for people who struggle with controversial movies or sort of strong themes, because you might be affected by what you see in this film. But for those who want something different, unique, and really sort of experimenting with the movies they're watching, this is definitely worth checking out. Karen Burch has a really sort of sad story in regards to this movie. She got into the adult film industry at a sort of younger age, and she really hated it. She hated doing it, and she hated being part of that world. And she felt that this film could have been her way to break free of that. And when it wasn't, she openly struggled. She left the industry, but she really struggled for 5 years after making this film, and ultimately, sadly enough, took her own life. And I just felt if this film was a bit better received, her life might have been a little better, I think. And it's a really sad story because I think she's so great and she could have went on to do some really interesting movies. Because as we've seen in recent years, directors taking people who from different industries and putting them into movies and telling their stories. Steven Soderbergh is a good example of that with Sasha Grey in The Girlfriend Experience, and Karen Burch was able to work with someone like that who really could have propelled her career forward in a different direction. She had a great presence on screen and could have really become a unique and interesting actress, and I'm just sad that she wasn't able to do that. Final thoughts. Really, it's a film that talks about the way that people are treated, especially women by men, in that particular environment, and how it can be quite abusive and aggressive, and how sometimes people can't take it anymore and they express themselves in a really violent way, and that's what this film really looks at. I thought it was really interesting. It was shocking at times and surprising, and I felt drawn into the story and experiencing things with the characters. I just felt the motivations behind why they were heading off on this journey, doing the things they were doing, wasn't as strong as it could have been. Anyway, that's all for me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom, follow me on Facebook and Letterboxd. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.